What is the story that you would tell about living through this pandemic? What is the story that you're telling right now? The story that we tell about this moment is central to this process of making meaning of it. And making meaning of it is essential to the possibility of growing through it, of actually becoming better through this unprecedented challenge, through the overwhelming uncertainty about our physical health and about our financial well being that so many of us are feeling. I often reflect on the fact that when modernity came, we were granted a false choice. And the false choice is the mythological stories that we have told you, or that you have told. Those mythological stories are either scientific fact or historical fiction. So the only way to hold on to the stories that make us human was to be fundamentalist about them. As if our ancestors did not understand that the mythical is a realm in and of itself. And so it's not like the Greeks thought that if they climbed up to Mount Olympus, they would see Zeus up there with thunder. They understood that there was something, a different realm that held the stories of meaning. And the stories that we told and retold were the stories that our ancestors knew mattered. So that we would know how to live. So that we would know how to get through pandemics, how to get through feudalism, how to get through slavery, how to get through colonialism. These stories are stories that matter. And so what we want to do is rescue the essence of these stories, even as we figure out what is the story that we need to tell right now. What is the story of redemption that becomes possible? Because so many of these stories are the stories that somehow capture that part of ourselves that is fallen. That part of ourselves that can be taken over and be subject to malevolence. That part that tries to make meaning of the evil that we do see in the world. And so there's a story of redemption that we want to tell. To me, there is a story that's right there waiting for us, and it is a very real story. And it is a story that acknowledges the fact that right now, as we speak, we are living through the sixth great extinction. And the fact that we can't really promise the next 7 generations of our descendants. The fact that we're actually stealing from the generation just in front of us. The fact that the ecosphere is at risk and the very well-being of the species is in question. What is a more important story than a story that allows us to harness the wisdom, the power, the spiritual, psychological, and emotional fortitude, the ways of being together that is demanded of us, that are demanded of us? If we're going to turn this thing around, if we're at least going to make it possible for our descendants to stand a chance in a world that will be much different than the one that we have been privileged to live through. That to me is an important story, and it's a story that demands a forward-facing remembering. It's a story that seeks to pick up the fire in the torch that our ancestors carried in their songs and in their rituals and in their ceremonies and in their stories. Yes, their stories and in their dances. To pick up that fire and to take responsibility for what is ours, for that which we know now that they did not know then. And not to spend so much of our energy blaming, finding somebody else that is evil, but actually taking radical responsibility for taking that torch and lighting that fire and becoming the ancestors in training that our descendants need if our species is to survive. I cannot think of a more meaningful story than this story of remembering and facing forward. And I cannot imagine a more appropriate moment than this one, in which the entire global system that has dominated our consciousness for too long is finding itself sputtering, it's in a pause. And nature is starting to smile again, even as we, at this human part of nature, struggles. What a time to learn a lesson. What a time to grow. What a time to find the heart and the wisdom to live our way into something new. Into a story that our descendants will want to tell and retell. How do we become the ones that is worth telling stories about? And how do we do it together?